Hey guys, welcome back to day 2 of our 3-part video special all about drone photography, how to create your own drone photos that look incredible, get shared, and bring you more business. So I'm gonna walk you through how I've built a reputation and a business and how drone photography has become one of the main things my clients ask for. Yesterday, we went over a ton of the things I hear the most about what's holding people back, like how they think there's no money in it, they think it's too difficult to learn all the software, or that it just takes too long, or that the software is too expensive. And we talked about how I actually believed a lot of the same things too, until I started to dig in and find out for myself if it was true or not, and more importantly, how to do it efficiently and successfully charge $200 an hour like I do and still get tons of work. So really quickly to review, we talked about things like how people are hiring photographers over pilots. They want to see someone who knows how to take a photo, not someone who just has a drone with a camera. I talked about avoiding high volume, low quality work that's kind of like fast food for drone photography, as well as how it's critical to have some really important key knowledge on the camera settings in your drone. The importance of editing your photos once you've actually taken them with your drone, and then how to get them seen and give yourself some exposure online so people can find you. Fortunately, these things are not that hard if you have someone like me to walk you through it. So you can always go back over the video if you missed it. It's in yesterday's email if you want to refresh. So once again, my name is Alex Harris. I'm the videography coach at Drone Launch, and I actually started my career filming video. And I've been doing it for years for networks, commercials, corporate stuff, and whatnot else. So people liked my video work, especially when I got a drone. But ironically, what started happening is people would go to my website to look at videos I had done, and then they'd see photos I had taken as kind of like promo images, and they go, oh my gosh, that is the one we want. That's exactly what we're looking for. How much is it? Can you do it for us? Blah, blah, blah. And they start talking specifically about photos. So I had a very successful photo-based video business, and people started asking for it exclusively, and it became the big bulk of my work. And I kind of went along with it because I already knew photography. Even though I hadn't been doing it super long, I knew it well enough to include it as an add-on in my video service. But because I had really heavy editing experience, I knew the importance of touching up your photos after. So I think it gave me a big boost pretty quickly. So I knew software and settings in the camera, technical stuff like that, as well as framing. So today I'm showing you those things, the 3 biggest things that separate me from 95% of the other guys out there charging for drone services. And believe it or not, fortunately for you, it is not as hard as it sounds or as complicated as you might have thought it was before. And because it's inexpensive, you can pick it up, implement this stuff, and feel the success pretty quickly. So to dive right into the technicals, the first thing you need to do, no ifs, ands, or buts, shoot in RAW. Basically every drone shoots in JPEG, but almost all major brand drones also shoot in RAW. And because you probably didn't need it before, you wouldn't have noticed it or known to look for it, but it's usually in your camera settings. And I didn't touch this either for a really long time because I didn't know what it meant, so I didn't make the effort to learn. And if you don't know what that means, I'll explain more in a second, but first, just take a look at this because it speaks for itself. Here's an example of a JPEG. JPEG is a standard file format that pretty much every camera will give you for the photos that you take. With JPEGs, basically what you see is what you get. And what I mean by that, in a JPEG file, the data from what the camera sees is kind of stamped into an image file. It gives you what you can see with your eye as best as it can, but there's not a lot of flexibility in what you can do with the photo afterwards. So once it's taken, it's stamped, and that's pretty much a sealed deal. It's not ideal for our purposes. The one upside is that the files are pretty small and they don't take up a lot of storage on your computer, which is why most people jump for it. And JPEG files are good enough, but that's the same mindset of 95% of the people in the back of the line. Now take a look at this. These are the counterparts of those JPEG photos shot in the RAW format. RAW captures much more data than JPEG. It basically soaks in as much info as it can about the lighting and the color that you're aiming at. When you first snap the photo, it might not look like much. In fact, it should look really boring, but it's closer to the source material because you can decide later all the color and lighting, but the range you have to work with is enormous compared to JPEG. There are shadows here, highlights here, textures that are in range that isn't visible with the naked eye, color information you wouldn't know about otherwise, and you can manipulate all of these values to bring out the richness in the photo you didn't know existed. So JPEG is like a chip. It's baked into place, and RAW is like working with dough. It's close enough to the source material that you can bend and play with it and make so many different things with it without breaking it, like how a chip would crumble as soon as you tried to bend it. I can't harp on enough about this, so just shoot in RAW. And that is the #1 tip. Number 2, and this is actually the add-on of shooting in RAW, so it's just more about number 1. But use editing software to edit all of your photos. But that'll take time. That'll be complicated. Yes, it was. It was a pain in the butt for a really long time. It was agonizing, but not anymore, thanks to Adobe Lightroom. This is software that is $10 a month. It's powerful, it's super inexpensive, but the important thing, Lightroom lets you batch edit photos. So you bring in your photos and Lightroom lets you adjust and temper every value of the data you captured while shooting. The color temperature, you can rescue shadows that are basically so far gone, it's insane to think this info still exists in the photo you captured. You can bring down highlights so a photo is night and day different, or day and night. You can pump all the richness in the colors and sharpen and smooth tones. You can even compensate for the minuscule faults and inconsistencies in your model of camera. So it has corrective profiles that are saved for basically every lens on the market. And all you have to do is check this. It'll see what camera and lens you shot with because it's stored in the image file, and it'll automatically check and compensate for those inaccuracies in your model of drone or camera lens. This is unreal, which is great. You can do all this incredible stuff, but what happens when you still have 100 extra pictures you need to apply this to? Oh my gosh, that's just gonna take forever. First of all, chill, because all you have to do, literally, highlight all the photos and click sync. Lightroom will apply those settings you made to every single one of your photos. This was such a revolution to my workflow, I wouldn't even bother with photography without it. And then you just go into each photo and make small adjustments. Lightroom also lets you clean up unsightly objects or weird things in your environment through some really intelligent features. It's seriously incredibly genius software, and with some guidance, you can learn which settings look the best and work the fastest, just like I did, and it wasn't that long ago when I learned all this stuff. I've only been doing this for a few years, and my photos are night and day different in quality. The number 3 tip: you have all these fantastic drone photos that you've got, and what are you supposed to do with them? And how do people know that you exist and you have the skills and the know-how to shoot raw, edit in Lightroom, and produce something just beautiful? So how do you get them to find you? Well, I've mentioned before, a very, very satisfying thing about aerial photography is that it pretty much markets itself. Depending on which forums and platforms you decide to distribute this stuff on, it's really easy to get people to look at it who live nearby and enjoy it. The attention is great, and these photos are relevant to almost everyone in your area because they live in your city. So if you take a photo of a monument or a landmark, most people are gonna like seeing it. And shooting aerial photos is typically an angle they haven't seen it from before. It's just plain fun to see people love your stuff, honestly, and that turns into actual paid work once enough people have gotten their eyes on it. What I mean by that is that even if they don't come back and call you up and say they want to hire you directly, once enough people have liked it or shared it and your name is associated with it, you're going to be much, much easier to find in any search engine. But here is a really, really important part about when you're posting this stuff online. You need to tell the story about your photo. You need to write a description like, I got this at sunset. It's one of my favorite shots I've gotten. I shot at this exposure. I'm still learning, and this is one of my favorite shots. I'm so happy with it. Tell the story of the photo because people love stories. 1, it makes them see the human behind the picture, and 2, now if somebody finds that picture, stumbles upon it somehow, they know that you posting are the photographer behind it, and this is how you got the photo. Otherwise, if you're just posting pictures online, you could be anybody finding this stuff on Google and just sharing it. So when you have no description and no name and no info underneath it or in the description or the title, wherever, it makes you really hard to find. If it's going on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media, just make sure you make it clear that you were the guy who took the photo. So you're the expert in this situation. When you show a little bit of your personality as well, it makes it much more inviting for somebody to give you a cold call and ask you about your prices. So let's say you're using these methods and it's going really well. Lots of people have liked it and shared it. It's going on blogs and forums and whatever else. When someone searches drone photography Wichita or wherever you live, your name is going to be associated with any pictures that pop up automatically in images. And if your photos are the most recent, relevant, and most liked, you're going to pop up first under images or those blogs you've been posting to, and you are a million times easier for a big client to find from out of town. I've even picked up work doing this stuff on Facebook and Instagram from people I know, like friends. And even if they don't hire you directly, it'll be in the back of their minds that you're the guy who took these photos, and when somebody asks for it, they want to know somebody. They want to have a friend that does this that they can refer to because they want to be helpful. So just make sure that it's in the back of the mind of everybody you know, you're the guy taking drone photos. When serious clients go looking for work, they're specifically looking for a couple of things. So when they see the type of treatment you do to it, they'll know right away that you're shooting raw and using Lightroom and probably have a photography background, so you can handle a more serious job with bigger clients. To a construction company, a casino, a resort, real estate developer, the extra money that they're going to pay you per hour is well worth it, because this is stuff that's going in a magazine or in front of thousands of people. So consider those things. Think about what I've said. That wraps up video 2, and I know what you're thinking. Wow, thanks for all this juicy info. I've had my fill. Well, I am not finished. So tomorrow we're going to show you 5 of the most amateur mistakes you don't want to showcase in your work that big clients know to look for that show you aren't ready for a high-paying job. So come back tomorrow for more seriously juicy info I wish I knew when I started my career. My name is Alex Harris with Drone Launch Academy. Hopefully, I'm going to see you guys tomorrow.